All right, welcome everybody to the Exes podcast. I'm Scott,
I'm Therese.
and we're the Exes. And we're for those of you, just a quick introduction is that we were the people that we were in a relationship, no longer in a relationship, but still remain friends and still have the same fun together, passions together, and that passion has recently, especially on this show, turned to crime. Although that's always been a passion of yours.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason why? Is there a
I
reason
just find
why? I
it.
mean, because a lot of people, I mentioned the show to other people. They're all like, "Oh my God, I'm obsessed with that trial. I'm obsessed with that case." Why is it that people are so obsessed with this stuff?
I just find it so interesting how they put all of the pieces together, how they break it down to who the suspects are and how it happened and all of the DNA and I don't know. I just find it very interesting. It started with the OJ trial.
Yeah, which was just I've never seen a trial. I mean, before OJ, I mean, I don't think anybody's been exposed to that where everybody was so invested and everybody was so positive that OJ was the killer. And then at the end, that not guilty thing was just like the strangest thing. Mary Kay is with us, my host from my Thursday night show. Hello, you two. Working but listening.
Hello.
Okay. Well, Mary Kay, just keep working and you keep listening, and we'll talk clear and loud so that you can hear every word. But you're right. Yeah, I think the OJ thing really kind of sparked because before that, the court TV and the investigation shows weren't as popular. But after that, there was a boom, right?
Were they even on at that point?
I don't even know if
Like
they were
60
on.
minutes, maybe.
Well, yeah. Well, that's been on since,
You remember that?
They used to play that on the cave walls back in the dinosaur days.
Even when Daylight came out, Daylight wasn't exactly a crime known show. It was more of a news show.
Dateline, yeah. And then for some reason they decided to just go all in on murder.
Well, I think the shows they did on some of the more popular murders got higher ratings, so they said, "Hey, let's go with this."
Anywhere where there's two people who got married and they seem to have the perfect life, and then one of them ends up dead, Dateline shows up because that's their favorite. What is that thing? What do they always say? They had the perfect marriage, and then somebody's dead. Somebody's dead. Anyway, so what we're tracking right now, we've talked about a lot of different murders. Now, one of the interesting ones, the college town murders, we talked about that about maybe a month and a half ago, where they caught the guy who had killed the 4 college students.
Allegedly.
But now they're trying to flip the script because there was a girl who was home at the time, and they are trying to say that she should be a suspect. So they're trying to flip the script and say...
Oh, the defenses?
The defense, yeah.
Well, they have nothing else to... I mean, they have no other course but to try and flip it on somebody else.
Well, yeah. Yeah, they're grasping at straws here. I mean, this guy was clearly Fruit Loops from the beginning. He was attending the college down the street, and he was studying forensic science and doing all that stuff. And just the car being at the places, and then there was other forensic evidence. For a guy who was studying that stuff, he really didn't do a very good job covering his tracks.
No.
So,
but they have delayed his preliminary trial.
For which reason? I wonder if it's because they think they're going to find new evidence through this girl.
Because he actually waived his right to a speedy preliminary trial.
Yeah.
Right? Something like that. He waived his right.
I have yet to see a speedy trial in any of these things.
Oh, good Lord Almighty. Lori Vallow was supposed to be a speedy trial.
Yeah. And here we are. We're knee deep into her trial where 2 children were murdered. And this is like, what, 3 years now? Or two and a half?
It's over 3 years. It's over 3 years. It's going on the 4th year.
Yeah. So I'm not sure where the speedy comes from because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I haven't seen that shit. You get a traffic ticket, they want you in court that week. You kill somebody, apparently, we'll talk to you in about 3 years. It's just, I don't get it.
Well, it's funny because the Letitia Stout case is also about 3 years, a little over 3 years.
Yeah.
And she's finally.
And
at her trial.
she's not even denying that she did the murder.
Correct.
She's arguing about the circumstance,
Correct.
her state of mind, and everything else. So, all right. So let's start with the Letitia Stout murder real quick before we get into the Dave Vallow case. We're now into about 4 weeks of testimony with Letitia.
I believe the defense started today.
Okay. All right.
I believe that's who I was listening to. I caught a little bit of it at lunchtime.
For those of you who don't understand what happened with this winning trial, this glorious human being, Letitia Stout, she was married to Al. They're calling him Al. I don't know if it's Albert or Alfred or whatever.
It is Eugene Albert.
Eugene Albert. I'd call myself Al too, I
think. You can call me Al.
Al's a National Guard guy. I mean, he for all intents and purposes looks like a straight shooter and everything else. Married this woman, ended up getting custody of his son from another marriage. So now Letitia has a stepson, and I think had him for about a year and a half before she killed him. But
that is what surprised me is because he has 2 children. There's a little girl too. It was only a matter of about a year, maybe 13 months that they had gotten the full custody. Did the whole moving from Alaska to Colorado.
Yep.
Only about a year. Like, so sad.
And they got the child's name is now eluding me, and I apologize for that.
Gannon.
The victim's name. Gannon. Thank you. Gannon was 11 when he came to live with his dad and stepmom. And by the time he was 12 years old, the stepmother did the most horrific thing you can imagine, is murdered her stepson while the father was out of town. And there was, she certainly had opportunity in because he wasn't around. But not only murdered him, but stabbed him 18 times and shot him twice, and blunt force trauma. The order of which I still have not worked out and seen where the autopsy report has been released, where we can understand what happened in what order. Stabbing, shooting, hit on the head. But either way, that's not something that happened in a split second. That's something that happened over a period of time. I mean, minutes and minutes.
Yeah.
Stabbing, shooting, and then hiding the body away for a period of time, which is, I think,
a couple of days.
Several days.
Yeah.
I think it was 3 to 4 days hiding this body away and acting like, oh, he must have run away kind of thing. Making up story after story, none of them matching each other. Then putting the body, and God, I hate to describe it this way, but putting the body into a suitcase, a large suitcase, but for a 12-year-old boy, he was a smaller boy. He wasn't very big.
Yeah, he was a preemie, so he was pretty skinny. He was little.
Yeah, he was definitely at the south end of the growth chart. But they put him in this bag, and then they were in Colorado. Her and her daughter getting a minivan or whatever they were driving.
Oh, a rented moving van.
A rented minivan.
Mm-hmm.
Body in the back in this suitcase. Her and her daughter drive to Florida, northern Florida, and dump the body under a bridge in Florida, and then go back to Colorado.
No, they went to her family in Myrtle Beach.
Oh, that's right. They went on to her family. And apparently the girl had no idea what was going on. Was afraid to ask because when she was in court, the daughter, when she was in court, saying, they're saying, how did you not know? She goes, I didn't look around and I didn't talk. Because every time she would say something that was not just the right thing to her mother, she would get hit. So she learned that when mom says something, you just sit there and you take it. So whether that's a drive from Colorado to Myrtle Beach, it's probably a very silent drive. And that's kids who are terrorized. That's how they act. Yeah. But this is the woman that we're talking about. She killed her stepson, stayed in denial, and then finally the body was found. She was charged, and we are at, again, week 4 of the trial, and defense is either started today or is it starting tomorrow? It's somewhere in here.
I believe it started today. And she tried to escape in Kentucky during her being brought back to Colorado to face her charges.
How the hell did she try to escape? She was being escorted and she tried to escape?
Yes, by 3 police officers. She slipped one hand out of her handcuffs and hit one of the officers that was in the back seat with her with a monster drink can.
See, those energy drinks are not healthy for you.
The officer had a concussion. She ended up having to spend the night in the hospital. So they had to put her in like a local jail overnight. And then they got like an actual police car, because they had just like their police department from Colorado had just rented them like a normal passenger van.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they were able to secure an actual police car and finish the transport.
Yeah, if you're watching the video, if you're listening, then take our word for it. But if you're watching our show, then take a look at the screen, because if you want to see what crazy looks like, this is pretty much, if you look in the dictionary, Letitia Stock's pictures is right under the word crazy. Hitting a cop in the head with a Monster beverage is not probably your best move if you're trying to say you're innocent of something, by the way. I'm just
she did plead not guilty at first. She changed her plea, which of course delayed the trial again.
Yes. So this is her, and this is obviously Gannon. And so now that trial. Now I don't know if there has been any real bombshells, because like you said, and I think like we said earlier, she's not necessarily fighting saying I didn't kill him, as much as she's saying that she had some sort of mental health problem, not quite a temporary insanity, but something similar. What were you calling it? The DID?
Dissociative identity disorder.
Okay.
Which used to be called multiple personalities. Basically,
yes.
That's what it used to be called.
Now, I've heard her say that there is somebody else that tells her what to do. There's somebody else that controls her sometimes. And she had a name for this person. Do you remember? Taylor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's been said on the stand by her daughter, her brother, her husband, that she used to just sometimes put her name as Taylor because she didn't like her given name. And she always used to say she wished her name was different. She wished it was Taylor. So I don't know how that's going to stand up.
Yeah, so that automatically says to you, this is a name that she already plays with anyway. So if you really had this identity disorder, you would not be that closely associated with that other identity, where you would be tossing the name around and doing things like that.
Right.
You might have a little bit of it, but it wouldn't be like, well, that's the name I've always used, and that's the name this other person is. But it just sounds bad. Now, obviously, death penalty is off the table in this case. And I'm not a huge fan of the death penalty. But there's cases where I'm just like, where do you go from here? I mean, other than it's time to say goodbye,
Well, she is hoping that she gets found guilty by reason of insanity, so she can be sent to a mental institution instead of jail. That's what she wants, right?
Now that doesn't mean
a little more cushy, and it doesn't mean she won't spend 25 to life in there, but it would be a little nicer than jail, right?
I'm really trying to understand where anything but life would apply in a situation where a stepmother, who is the guardian, they're supposed to be the protector of this child, murders them so heinously. This was not just like an angry, I swatted him and he hit his head and died, or something bad. This was a heinous crime, a definitely psychotic act. I'm not sure why there would ever be even 20 years to 25 years. How do you measure a 12-year-old's life? I mean, I don't understand that. Maybe I'm just too cut and dry with some of these things, Therese, but somebody like this, I don't look at this person and say, yeah, well, she deserves a second chance.
No.
Now, if she is insane and she needs proper treatment, fine, put her in the psych ward, but she's there for the rest of her life. I'm sorry, she's not. I don't see where we can say she's paid her debt. I don't see where you could pay a debt for the heinous death, not just an accidental death, not a crime of passion, a heinous death with planning and then covering up and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, and this poor kid, I mean, he had defensive wounds, against the stabbing, so he was obviously still alive.
Jesus.
To be stabbed 18 times. And then why would you have to shoot him in that? I mean, why would you have to shoot him? After I don't know. And the thing I can't understand is I've been listening and I've been listening to them lay it out. But the times that they have of where they have him on somebody's Ring camera, leaving the house with her, and then her coming back, and she said he was with her. They couldn't see him on the camera. And then they thought, well, maybe there's a shadow. Maybe he did. But they think he returned home because the actual act happened in his room, in his bed. So they assume he must have come home with her. But that was like at 2:00 in the afternoon. Now, the other kid got off the bus at like 3:30. So this all happened in an hour and a half?
Well, he didn't go to school that day.
Right. He didn't go to school.
Right.
But she was seen coming home without, either with or without him. They didn't see him on this Ring camera, but then they were saying that maybe his footprints, he got on the other side, blah, blah, blah. But he was seen leaving with her at 10 a.m., walking on his own. So you would assume they get home around 2.
Yeah.
But the other child got off the bus at like 3:30. So all of this happened in an hour and a half?
I guess it could. I'm not going to go through the motion of stabbing 18 times and pulling out a gun and shooting twice and seeing how long it takes. But I imagine it could happen very quickly, but then cleaning that up and getting
well, she did send the little girl outside right away to ride her bike. And then she had her daughter bring her to the store and get cleaning supplies. And his bedroom was in the basement. So she was probably able to. She cleaned like a crazy person, though.
But she sent her daughters to the store for cleaning supplies that were probably used to help clean up the mess. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. This is going on right now. Court TV's covering it pretty well. And they're jumping back and forth. There's other crimes that are coming to the surface now that people are dealing with, the roommate murders and some of the other things. But this one's particularly disturbing, and I'll be very happy, Therese, when I don't have to hear about this one anymore.
Yeah.
I'll be very, very happy, and to know that it's done, it's over, and she's gone. So keep an eye on that. Again, the defense has started. It'll be interesting to see where they're going to go with this, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be riding the crazy train on this one.
Yeah.
And
I don't think they have a choice.
Yeah. Where else do you go? Now, flipping the switch over to our friends, the Daybells, the Vallows. They never came over for dinner, but hey, this is a fun gang. You definitely want to have them over to your house. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people in this photo, and 5 of them are dead.
Yeah.
And in the center of it all is Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. Her estranged husband, or her separated husband, her estranged husband, yes, was killed in something that was set up to look like a self-defense. And she had her brother kill the husband. And that's a trial that's not even started yet. J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan, her 2 children, they were murdered. And in between all of that, Chad Daybell, his wife, was murdered. And somewhere in all of that, just out of pure circumstance, Alex Cox, her brother, who is at the middle of half of these murders, if not all of them, just happens to die from a brain aneurysm, a natural thing. Unfreaking believable.
Not a brain aneurysm.
What was it?
Pulmonary embolisms.
See, that's the same thing.
Lungs.
It's lungs, brain. It's an organ. There's a blockage. He died. Just this case, absolutely insane. Right now, who's on trial right now is Tammy Daybell, and right now, Lori Vallow, who is being charged with the murders of Tylee and Joshua, JJ, her children, and conspiracy to commit murder against Tammy Daybell, Chad's wife. Chad is now her husband. Because the 2 of them, hey, people who kill together, they love together. They belong together. I don't know. I'm sure there's something romantic in there, but wow. So this has been going on. We are about 2 weeks and 2 days into this thing. There was 1 or 2 days off in between. So probably 2 full weeks of testimony, 10 days of testimony. Therese, where are we at with this thing? Is it going the way you thought it would?
Pretty much it is, I think. I mean, we learned about how JJ actually died today, which was quite sad because I was hoping for a little more peaceful outcome
No,
of that.
no, he was. They determined, and they have shared today through the autopsy and observation that he died of asphyxiation. He was suffocated. He did have a plastic bag taped around his head. That could have been the cause of the suffocation, or he could have been suffocated, then the bag added. But either way, he suffocated. They found scratches at his neck where he was trying to defend himself or break the grip or break the tape or whatever it might have been. Bruises on his arms from the struggle. And pretty much this, how old was he? He was 7 years old. Mm-hmm. 7 years old, fighting for his life from a family member. Now I know we're saying Lori Vallow, Chad, they weren't there at that time. The brother did it.
Well, we don't know, right?
That's kind of where they're leaning right now.
That's where they're leaning, yeah.
It doesn't matter because it was a conspiracy by all of them to kill this boy, and that's the last thing he saw in his life was a trusted family member taking his life, and that is just horrendous. No different than what we just saw with the Stout trial. But so many more people involved in this. Here we had with the Letitia Stout, you're looking at saying there's one crazy bitch. I mean, there's one crazy person. Yeah. Okay, that's easy. One crazy person. You go over here and you're like, this is a crazy freaking family. This whole they call it the Doomsday Cult Mom. I think that's too nice of a title. Quite honestly.
Yeah.
They're just psychotic. It's a family of psychos is what this is. And yeah, you're right. Today we found out about that. We've seen, the beginning of the trial really kind of laid out timelines and did all that stuff. But, now they've really gotten into conversations, taped interviews, taped conversations that were like jail cell calls. We saw her sister's jail cell call where her sister on the outside who was defending her the whole time these kids were missing, and Lori's lying and the sister saying she loves her kids, she takes care of her kids, she didn't do anything wrong. I just can't see that. Who now watch these children being dug up,
unearthed.
Unearthed. I was gonna say unburied, but that's not right. Unearthed. And now she's talking to her sister saying, what the hell? You're dancing on the beach in Hawaii while your children are in the ground behind your husband's house. Her now husband.
Yes.
And then the sister just lost it. And the whole time Tammy showed very little emotion until
Lori.
You
keep giving her Tammy's name. Don't give her Tammy's name.
I know.
Tammy was a sweet woman.
Yes. Yeah, but she's not here to tell us. But Lori showed no emotion. I mean, what did you get out of that phone call? Was it as haunting to you as it was to me?
Yes. I felt so bad for her sister Summer. Summer went through probably all of the stages of grief in that one phone call, right? She was crying at first, then she was angry and yelling, and then she was trying to let her sister know that she does love her. She would support her if she would give her some information, tell her the truth. And then she got angry again. And it was horrible. It was horrible. And Lori is just on the other line, just going, you know me, Summer. Well, no, apparently she didn't.
And the other conversation that they released at the end of last week was her son. Her oldest son, Colby, who had called his mom, and it was pretty much the same kind of conversation. What happened to the kids? Why didn't you tell anybody? What did you do? And Lori, I got it right this time.
Yeah, you got it right.
Lori, also known as Tammy by me. No, Lori actually said the most insane thing I'd heard to date, which was they love me. And they still love me.
Mm-hmm. And we're still sealed in eternity.
Yes. They know what happened and they love me. And nobody else knows. And she said something similar to her sister. Nobody else knows. Nobody knows. And the sister said, then tell me. The son said, then tell me. And she says nothing. Now, here's my question to everyone out there. If somebody has a rabid religious belief or spiritual belief or a doomsday belief, and they rabidly believe it, if you ask them about it, they'll tell you about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they believe what they did was right, if somebody believed that what you did was right, you tell somebody. Why can't you say anything if what you did is so righteous and so right? In your mind, you were killing zombies, you were saving their souls. That's what you were doing in your mind, according to the story that they've concocted. Therese just cut out. I'm sure she'll be right back. But according to the story they concocted, Lori Vallow really believed that the kids were in mortal danger, their souls were in danger, and you have to kill the body to release the soul. It was all this crazy stuff. But now that the deed is done and she's in trouble, and somebody says, well, tell me what happened, she won't tell. If what she did was righteous, she should be able to share it with people. If what her brother did was righteous, she should be able to share it with people. If what Chad did was righteous, you should. So it's got nothing to do. And I'm going to call bullshit on the righteousness of it. I'm going to call bullshit and say, this is all now becoming a very, very calculated lie and act. Because if you truly were a believer in what you did being righteous, you would say what you did. I don't even know how else to put that. I know you missed a moment of that, Therese, but you got the gist of what I'm saying, right? If she believed what she was doing was right, why can't she tell somebody about it?
Right. You think you would say, if you really, really believe that and they brought you into court and asked you about it, you would say, well, you know, they were dark. I had to save them, right? If that's really what you believed.
Yeah. Now you're saying they were dark. You know, that's how she explained people are either light or they're dark.
Yes.
It's not about the color of their skin or anything like that. It's not that.
No, it's the scale towards God.
Yes. Yes. And the interesting thing is she actually created names for some of these people. Her husband, who she said was a dark soul or a zombie or whatever they want to use that term. She used different terms. But was the dark, you know, soul. Who went by the name of, it was something like Ned Schneider or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's something like that. And she goes, that's who it is. Now, through computer forensics, they found these guys Googling these names, Ned Schneider and stuff like that, and getting information about, where are all the Ned Schneiders? Where do they live? And things like that. So they were setting all this up to begin with.
Yeah. Well, they gave him a few different names because, you know, they didn't quite get the evil spirits out the first couple of times. So they had to give him a more evil one, Garrett, and then a more evil one, Iplos. Yeah.
Yeah, the Hiplos thing, that's where, yeah.
The H is silent.
Oh, the H is silent? No, it's Hiplos. He's got big hips. I just don't understand. And, you know, again, we're in a situation where 1, 2, 3, at least four people. There's more waiting in the wings. I think we're going to find out more. I think we're going to be looking more closer at Alex's death. We're going to be looking at her first husband's death. It might even go back to looking at her sister's death when she was young.
Well, it was her third husband, Joe.
Her third husband, Joe. Yeah.
They said that they've already reopened and looked into that case, and they still deemed it as natural causes. And he did have some heart issues and blah, blah, blah. And Alex, I think that they're still just going. I don't think they're going to do anything with Alex, but they did exhume Tammy, and we haven't found out. They haven't discussed her autopsy yet because that's a different. They had to exhume her in Utah, so that's going to have to be a different coroner that comes in.
Right. So I think they're doing a lot of focus. They've mentioned very little about Tammy.
Mm-hmm.
Been just a kind of in passing. They've mentioned a lot about her husband, who was killed by her brother in self-defense. But that trial isn't the trial we're on. The only thing they're doing is, in the, you know, of course, the defense is like, how can you talk about that? That's not even this trial. And they're saying we're showing a pattern of behavior. We're showing a pattern where her husband was killed by her brother It was an estranged husband, but still her husband.
Mm.
Killed by her brother in the house. She shows up at the house and is laughing in the driveway with the police. Laughing. Saying, "Oh, I wonder what the neighbors think. Hi, neighbors." And she's smiling and laughs. She's doing, you'd think she just won Miss America. She's out in the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
And I did watch the interview after that, after her husband was accidentally killed by her brother, or self-defense. I watched the interview with the police in this police station that went on for about 25, 30 minutes. And the whole time she is the most relaxed. She's smiling the whole time.
Mm.
She's kind of joking about certain things. She goes, "Well, I guess you just feel uncomfortable when this stuff happens. Oh, well." I'm like, oh my God, this is the most callous human being I've ever seen. She's absolutely insane. And when the person left the room, she just kind of leaned back in a chair and just fell asleep. She was called cool in the gang. Everything was fine.
She was just chilling. I think she was trying to hear Tylee's.
I think she was focusing on trying to hear that. Yeah, you're right. But it was just so freaking haunting and chilling. So again, back to the case. So they've laid out a lot about what happened to the kids, the timelines. They traced cell phones. They knew where everybody was. Mm-hmm. And by the way, just so you know, she does not have to be present to be charged with murder. Or conspiracy to murder carries the same weight as murder if you are involved enough in it. So if she planned and had a hand in it and covered it up afterwards, conspiracy to murder, she'll get the same punishment as if it was just plain murder by her own hand.
Yeah. And I think what really is going to be a big thing for the jury is that a couple of times when she was asked, if she knew where the children were, she said, "I know where they are safe, and they are happy." So I think that's going to be a big thing for the jury, because she's saying, I always knew where they were. She said that to her mother. "I've always known where they are. They're not missing to me." So and they were buried in her husband's backyard. So I think that's a hard thing to explain away.
Well, if nothing else, I mean, let's start with endangering the welfare of a child like that, where you cannot produce the children who are your responsibility. You cannot produce them. They are not being protected or cared for by you. You just kind of threw them out like trash. Her sister used that term. You threw them out like trash.
And stole their money.
And stole their money.
Was using their money,
Continue to steal money.
Not to mention.
Not to mention buying wedding rings for her and Chad before they even killed his wife. There's so many things that went on there. But again, they've gone through a lot of what happened with the children. The defense is going to do some moves now. We'll see what they're doing. No, not the defense yet. But I think we're going to start seeing.
But I think soon.
Yeah, soon. But we're going to see the transition into the Daybell or the Tammy Daybell part of the case pretty soon, where they've got to start talking about that.
I don't know
because it's in the same trial.
Correct, but I don't know if they have that much for her in that regard.
I think they want people to they're probably counting on people connecting the dots on their own. So maybe it might be a little bit lighter. I'm sure they'd rather nail Chad to the cross on that one and get Lori and Chad on the kids. Either way, they're all going to go away. And none of them are going to walk free again.
I hope not.
At least that's what we're hearing. Even if half the charges are upheld.
Yeah, they just have to. Really, she just has to be found for one of the charges.
Yeah. So this is, I mean, we don't have a lot of people listening in right now. I don't know if this is something that's like you're a little tired of hearing about it, or if this is just disturbing, because we've had people come in and out. If you got any comments about it, please share them with us. But I'm kind of like, where are we left with this? Because we're going to start getting into the territory very shortly, I think, of, my God, just end it. I know you got to go through all this stuff, but they are moving fairly quickly with this trial. I will say that with all of the, you're talking about
Yeah.
3 charges of murder and conspiracy and all these other things, and they're moving along fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Are they pleased with the progress?
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, they took a day off last week because they were kind of ahead of schedule and didn't have all of their witnesses available because they had misjudged the timing of it. So they had to kind of catch up to when their witnesses were supposed to be in town.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and there's so many victims in this, from the older brother Colby to the grandparents,
Kay and Larry.
Yeah, the sister, a couple of close friends. There's also a few people. I'm gonna tell you right now, there's a few people out there that were connected enough to this that I really would not mind seeing them charged with aiding and abetting. People who lied. People who lied to the police.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they had people snowed. They're like they had. Well, just tell the police this, and people were telling the police stories for the Daybells, for the Vallows. Are you kidding me?
Yes, but they got immunity
as long as they testify against Lori. Yeah. So I don't assume we're going to be seeing Chad this year.
No, I doubt it.
Yeah, because once they wrap this up, now it's like, oh, now we got to start all over again. And
well, they are, his lawyer has been in the courtroom quite often for this trial. And the predictions are on a lot of the news channels and some of the YouTubers is that once her trial's over, depending on, well, now they know what information is coming out, right? Because it's going to be the same information. Yeah. And depending on what she is found guilty of, he probably most likely will plead out to get rid of the death penalty for himself too.
Here's where I'm surprised. They separated the trials. They wanted the judge and the handful of people wanted so badly to try them together. It saves time, it saves effort, and that way you hang them both out with the same rope. You're just done. Now that it's separated, we run the risk of the he said, she said, and we run the risk of one of them pointing the finger at the other and saying they were the mastermind, they were the contributor. But I think they've set it up in this trial with the conspiracy charges enough to say, I don't care who came up with it first. You both participated. You're both screwed. So I think they're kind of shielded against that. They did all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, other than they're going to point the finger like solely at Alex, the real cause of death was Alex.
Yeah.
And I could see they're getting closer and closer to just making that outright just a story. This is what we're going to say. And it might actually be true. He might have been the one to physically do that. But it was by their direction.
But I don't know about Tammy because I believe Chad was the only one there. Alex's phone pinged close, but about a mile away.
Well, it pinged close, and then it kind of went out for a little bit, and then it pinged close again a little while later. It would have been perfect timing for him to go in and do it. But, I mean, I'm not sure how the logistics of that work. They haven't walked us through what they believe happened, or even how she died yet.
Right.
I think we're making assumptions about asphyxiation.
Well, actually, I think they did. Yeah, I think that was said.
Asphyxiation as well?
Yeah.
Like smothered?
Yeah. Well, strangled, maybe.
Yeah, well, strangling usually leaves the marks, and that's a little more telltale. So I think we probably smothered with a pillow, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
But even then, you get hemorrhaging, reticular hemorrhaging, and different things going on when you have that going on. I've been watching a lot of crime shows, so I'm getting used to terminology. I can't tell you the difference between Tammy and Lori, but I know about hemorrhaging.
Personally, I think they may have found more drugs in Tammy's system.
Yeah.
I think that maybe he drugged her or poisoned her or something too first.
And the funny thing is that now with Tylee, they could not test to find out because of the way that the body was burned. But they also with JJ, they did find possible trace alcohol and GHB in his system.
Yeah, but the coroner was saying that GHB could be naturally produced.
It could be naturally produced,
especially in those levels.
By decomposing.
Yeah.
It could be. So, but it is possible that he was drugged as well.
That would have been like a cough medicine or something.
That would have been a great connection between, well, look at this. He was drugged. She was, Tammy was drugged. And, Tylee again, the destruction of Tylee's body was so different than JJ's body. Has there been any talk about why?
So different from any of them.
Yeah. Why such huge measures? Unless it was just they were so concerned about forensics and it was a complete forensic cover-up. That something, the way that Tylee died, left too much evidence and they had to burn her, burn the body. Have they talked about that yet at all that you've heard of?
No, not really. I mean, I think that's some assumptions are just that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just that Lori kind of still took care of JJ more. Like she was done with Tylee. Like she didn't want to be, she was done with her. She had said she was done with JJ too. I mean, she didn't really want to be responsible for children anymore.
No, but she didn't mind collecting their paychecks.
No.
Let's remember this. At the heart of all of this, she was still taking money from them, basically committing fraud, mail fraud, and fraud. The Social Security checks she was using. She was forging documents. So there was a lot of other things going on with this. And plus it freed her up for the life that she wanted to live.
Yeah.
Now, I just got to throw this in here. Lori participated in a
Mrs. Texas.
Mrs. Texas, is that what it was?
I think so. I think they were living in Texas at the time.
Yeah, the Mrs. Texas pageant. So this is, the godly zombie killer woman here. She was on Wheel of Fortune.
Mm-hmm.
She was on Wheel of Fortune, told everybody about her wonderful husband and 2 kids on their 5 acres back in Texas or wherever they were at the time.
Yeah, wherever.
And the truth is, they were actually separating at the time of that show.
Or shortly after that. Or very shortly after that.
Yeah.
Hello?
I'm here. Knows how to turn on the charm and do all of that stuff. So it's just, crazy. Again, there's no cameras in the courtroom, which I wish there was.
I know.
Did anybody explain why they didn't want this on television?
The judge. It was all up to the judge.
But what was did he have a reasoning for it?
He was worried about too much publicity in the case already, and that it would bias the jury, and that they wouldn't be able to stay, put it all aside. But once the trial starts, the jury is not allowed to listen to anything anyway. So what's the difference if you have a camera in there or not? Even a still camera, for crying out loud.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, which your podcaster found out about that, didn't she?
Yeah.
No still cameras.
No photographs.
All you get is those shitty courtroom sketches. Yeah. And I'm sorry, there's got to be better artists out there who can draw nicer. I mean, I'm sorry.
Well, they did. They found a local woman.
I know. She's doing a good job, but
yeah.
Is the jury sequestered or are they out?
No.
They're not.
No.
So here's the thing. We don't want the jury finding out about things, but while they're in court all day, there is nothing coming out of that courtroom. But when everybody goes home for the night, the court releases all the information that happened that day to coincide with just about the time the jurors are getting home.
Yes, but
the truth is, if it was televised while the juries were in the courtroom, they wouldn't see the shit. But as it works, they get to go home, probably make their SpaghettiOs, put it in a bowl, sit down, turn the TV on, and then get the whole day of what happened because that's how they're releasing it.
But they are not allowed to do that. And they're not allowed to discuss it with their family. And they're not allowed, they have to tell people, if you're going to talk about that, I have to leave.
Have you ever been on a jury?
No. I wish I was.
I was going to say, you sound bitter about that.
I am.
I keep calling saying, let me. I was supposed to be on one once, but it was actually back when Karen and I started our business, if you remember, and I had to say, listen, this is not the time for me to not be there because we were just starting to train and grow and do things. So, I had one opportunity. Of course, I'd probably get some jaywalking case or some stupid, I think I'd be a great juror because I could look at people and just know if they're guilty or not. So I just, I should be a great
Well, yeah, that's exactly who they want on there.
It is. Oh, crazy. We'll give you more updates, in a couple weeks when we come back, certainly. And I think what we'll do is we'll bring us something new to talk about, but we will continue to update you on this. There was just so much that we had to unpack today.
Yes.
The last 2 weeks has just been focused on this. Probably by the time we're back in 2 weeks, we might get we might have a finish to the Stout trial and a conviction, or at least a judgment.
Hopefully.
We probably will not be done with the Vallow trial, but we'll be probably in the finished stretches.
Yeah, we should be close.
It really depends. I don't imagine that the defense can possibly call the number of witnesses that the prosecution is calling, because there's very few people out there that can defend her position.
There haven't even been any of her family in the courtroom. No. And even though her sister was there waiting to testify, and she was allowed to be in the courtroom because they made her Tylee's representative, she sat behind the prosecution. She did not sit behind her sister's side.
And her sister, she kept looking over at her sister, trying to make contact. Lori did, and the sister wouldn't give it back.
That's what I heard.
Wow. And Colby what?
Colby was also behind the prosecution because he was testifying for the prosecution. So she's had nobody sitting in the defense side.
And I have not yet seen any extended version or video or audio. There is no video, but audio recordings of any kind of real cross-exam by the defense on any of these witnesses.
Not until today.
There's been very little. I don't know what happened today because some of that won't be released until 10 minutes
later,
8 o'clock.
Yeah.
But what I've seen so far, it's been very, very kind of light. Even with, I know there were moments with the sister. I think it was today where I heard a report where they were saying, didn't you defend her at one point? And the sister was like, yeah, of course I did, until they found the kids. And then how do I defend it? So it's very difficult. I don't know where the defense is going to find character witnesses or anything that's going to make this any better. I'm really kind of interested to see what their plan is.
Yeah, I agree. I'm interested too.
Unless they got a way to turn somebody in that courtroom into a zombie in front of everybody. And it sounds like I'm making a joke, but it's almost like that's the only thing you've got. Is this thing where you saw it as a dark person, but you're the only one in the world. The sister actually said it really well. Lori's like, nobody understands. Everybody's putting poison in your head. And the sister saying, so you're the only one who's right and everyone else in the world is wrong.
Right.
And Lori's
like, all been deceived.
Yeah. Lori says, that's not what I said. And the sister said, that's exactly what you just said. You're the only one who knows the truth. That's ridiculous in itself.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So it should be pretty interesting to see where the defense goes. Do you have any clues on what you think they're going to pull out of their hats, or are you as dumbfounded as us?
I mean, I think they're definitely going to blame it on Alex. And I think that they're going to try to say that Lori was not aware of her brother's dark side and what he thought he was doing for her to protect her and blah, blah, blah. But then that also doesn't explain the fact of how she says she knew where they were, and they were buried in her husband's backyard. And she took off as soon as the police were knocking on her door for a second time. So I don't know how do you say, okay, maybe hands-on, she didn't do it, but she knew.
But then you walked around for month after month after month after the death of these children. saying they're safe, they're fine, they're good. I remember you were still living down here at the time, and we would look at each other and say, I pray the kids are with a cult somewhere.
Yeah.
And hopefully not being abused, but I hope they're alive somewhere. And we kept like praying that was going to be the case, and it wasn't. But yeah, so how do you defend it? How do you say, well, I didn't know what he did? Well, then as a mother, your kids disappeared.
Why aren't you out there looking for them?
Your kids disappeared. You don't know what happened. Why are you saying, no, everything's fine? Yeah. Hello? Even the people who try to act innocent, who are guilty, know enough to at least go out there and pretend you're looking.
I know, right?
How many parents have we seen who kill their kids and then they're the ones leading the charge through the woods? Let's look for the little Bobby, and they just do their thing. And they know where it is. And they know she didn't even, there was not even a little bit of that.
No.
That's the part that baffles me so much.
And she was asking people to lie for her. And she was blaming it all on Kay. I had to protect him because Kay was going to steal him. Well, God, I wish Kay would have stole him, okay? I wish she would have come in the middle of the night and taken him away.
The Woodcocks, I think their name was, Kay and
Larry.
And by the way, saw Larry on film today, not looking too good. This is really wearing on him. Kay is holding up a little better, but Kay's
about 17 years younger than him.
Well, that helps too, I guess. Yeah, but God, I'm sure they go to bed with that thought every night, Therese, that we should have just gone and yanked those kids. But the truth is, until those kids went missing, nobody knew how bad it actually was. They had ideas. When Charles was killed, they had thoughts that this is not right. But there was absolutely no belief anywhere that it was going to turn out the way it did. And so I'm sure they go to bed with that thought every night. We should have done more.
I'm sure they do. And that's got to be torture.
Oh, it's got to be. And then sitting through this trial day after day. Now, I'm not sure if they're going to sit through the rest of it. They
were not there this morning because they were given the heads up about what the morning was going to be about, but they returned in the afternoon.
Okay, because this morning was heavy on the autopsy photos and
JJ, yes.
Yeah. Well, that's very kind of them to certainly give them the heads
up. And he said, when somebody asked Larry, he said that it's hard to be there, but it's also hard to not be there.
Right.
Especially since if they're not there, they don't know what's going on. Right.
Yeah. This is a crazy case, folks. There are some podcasts out there that are dedicated to this and pretty much are focused solely on this right now. We're not the professional crime chasers and stuff. We may get there one day. We're actually, I'm not going to say, it's hard for me to say we're enjoying doing this because we kind of are. But
we kind of are.
But we do not enjoy the fact that people are getting killed. Or especially the two cases we're talking about today where innocent children had to die. Listen, husband and wife, they want to try to kill each other after 30 years of marriage. You've probably earned the right to at least try. But the kids, that's when it really, really gets sad. So we're definitely feeling this when we're talking about it. We're not callous or cold to it. But we do like looking into these things and seeing how these things work. So we're going to continue with this for a while. We'd love you to join in. If anybody out there is really kind of into this stuff, you want to join us on the show sometime, love to have you on. If you've got a case you'd like us to kind of look up and poke apart, we've been able to, dig into cases. It's easy to get cases in my neck of the wood in Florida because Florida is where serial killers go to retire. And by retire, I mean kill their last 20 people. But we've handled stories up in your neck of the woods, Therese, in Syracuse, and there's been some good serial killers coming out of the Rochester area too. So we've got stories up there, and all the way up into Canada with the Lost Boys. And so we've talked about a lot of these different cases.
Yeah.
So if you got some ideas, just shoot it out at us, and we'll see what we can dig up for the next show. But always, we're going to keep you apprised of what's going on with these cases that we start with. We'll see them through.
Yes, we have to see it to the end.
We will give you an update on the College Town murders, the Idaho murders, where they're trying to turn the table on one of the witnesses. The defense is doing kind of this loop-de-loo. We don't know exactly how it's playing out yet, so we will give you that report next time and let you know what's going on with that. But Therese, anything else you want to add to this cacophony of sadness today?
No. Oh. Yes,
Yes.
I'm gonna make a lot of noise. No, just I don't know. Give your kids a hug. That's all I can say.
That's a good thought. That's a good thought. Give your kids a hug. If you see something, say something. If now, I could tell you pretty seriously that I'm sure there's some mental health issues going on with both the cases we talked about today. If you know somebody who is suffering from mental health disorders or not getting properly treated for mental health disorders or might seem a danger to themselves or others, call 811. It's the new mental health hotline.
Mhm.
They will guide you, let you know what's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. And if you're really, really concerned that danger is imminent, call 911. It's better to look like a fool and make a call when you didn't have to than to not make the call when you should have and have somebody pay the ultimate price for that. So
Agreed.
take care of each other, watch out for your neighbors, be kind to each other, and yeah, absolutely hug your children. And if they're far away, just give them a call. Give them a call, and I'll be doing that tonight. Now I'm thinking about the kids, and
There you go.
Like to give them all a big squeeze. But all right, Therese, as always, it's a pleasure, darling.
Yes, sir.
And we will be back with more of the Exes podcast. This has been brought to you by, you might have seen the banner at the beginning. This has been brought to you by Sober Life Studios.
I saw that new banner.
We are rebranding, and LOL Productions has now become Sober Life Studios. And our podcast page is now Sober Life Entertainment, soberlifestudios.com. You can get to our podcast page on our YouTube. And of course, Sober Life Art. The website is being built right now. I have a manager who's building it and getting ready to launch the artwork. So we got a lot going on, cool stuff, but this is brought to you by our friends at Sober Life Studios.
So you got to fix this up here.
I got to fix that up there. I got to fix the Live Out Loud. And we're probably going to redo this a little bit. I think instead of the broken heart, we're going to have a dead body up there from now on.
Maybe a dead body with a broken heart.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right. But again, for now, I'm Scott.
I'm Therese.
Well, thank everybody for joining us. We'll catch you next time right here on the Exes. Y'all take care.